J.B. Fletcher went to town as appointed by the governor. She is an interim congressperson. What is this? Hi, I'm Kyle, and today we have banana bread.
And I'm Justin, on intermission from this production of 1776, Punch.
I've got some banana bread, and Justin has a cocktail. We are the Cabot Cove ladies. Auxiliary!
How does it taste?
It's okay. Welcome to Murder, She Wrote, episode 12.
Capital Offense. We start this episode in a very luxurious Washington, D.C. penthouse.
The Watergate Hotel. Nothing shady about these goings-on.
We have Congressman Dan Kepner, attorney and lobbyist Harry Parmel, CEO of this fish canning company, Ray Dixon, and a lady named Marta Craig is there. She's bartending, and she has the world's tiniest camera.
And she might be a sex worker.
They want to discuss this cannery bill that affects the state of Maine. They're waiting on Congressman Wendell Joyner, and he's the one that they're trying to sway with this cannery bill.
But Marta's taking secret photographs.
Joyner arrives and says, I'm going to the House Ethics Committee with a full report on all of you.
It's too bad that they got his temper up, because then he collapses. And you see Marta with her camera emery board. Someone says, call an ambulance, and a guy says, no, we gotta move the body. You're like, okay.
So the aide to the governor shows up at the door.
There's a 3-week interim before the next person elected can fill the seat. So the governor chose Jessica Fletcher, mystery writer, American sweetheart, to fill the seat in the interim.
And reveals that Congressman Joyner was found dead in his bed.
Which we know is not where he died. So already, dramatic irony is hot.
And he had a history of heart problems.
My country, 'tis of the sweet land of liberty.
We have this scene that is 30 seconds. Diana Sims is on the phone with the Speaker of the House and says, no, Jessica hasn't arrived yet. Joe Blinn is picking her up at the airport. He's a press agent.
Cut to Joe Blinn, the press agent, picking her up from the airport.
Joe tells Jess that his main job is to get her publicity in the papers and to wine and dine her. She says,
we'll get along just fine if you try to remember that I am not your addle-pated great aunt from East Nowhere. Joe says, don't worry, you've got a crackerjack team left to you by Congressman Joyner. They arrive in the office. She meets Diana Sims, the main administrative assistant, who says, my resignation is on your desk. Most new Congress people bring in their own staff.
So Jess picks up her resignation and is like, Diana, do you like your job?
Yeah.
Throws it in the bin. So in comes Harry Parmel.
He's got roses, honey. A full bouquet. Can I take you out to lunch? And Jessica looks like she's gonna say yes, but then gets sort of a sly glance from Diana, and she says, oh, actually, I ate already. So she takes the flowers, and he skedaddles out of there.
And she said, why did I say no to that? And basically Diana says, Harry will wine and dine you to get you to vote his way. He works for Pembroke Foods, and that Harry doesn't break the rules. He's never even heard of them.
Yankee Doodle went to town, riding on a pony.
But then we go to Jessica's hotel. She's checking in. Joe has driven her there. There's a lurking guy sitting in the lobby. Cut to Dan Kepner calling Jess from a bar payphone. And he wants to discuss something, but she's already in bed.
Well, she's got a whole cannery bill to read as well.
So he said, okay, if you can't meet now, why don't we have breakfast at your hotel at 8 in the morning? Then Dan goes to the street. He goes, hey, cabbie. And this cab pulls up, but not before this beautiful blonde walks toward him.
Congressman Kepner! And he says, sorry, honey, not tonight. Which I thought was just someone mistaken for a prostitute. And she says, no, it's me, Marta Craig. You know, from the party. She was the... Remember me? I'm really scared about moving the body. I think she's a sex worker. She works the party circuit 5 or 6 nights a week. So she hands him the photo. I'm really scared. It would be terrible if something like this came out. I don't know. And crown thy good with brotherhood.
We're back in the hotel the next morning. Jessica has overslept and she's sprinting down to the hotel restaurant. She doesn't see who she's looking for, but she is followed by the suspicious man in the lobby. This has happened 1 or 2 times now, and I'm gonna officially call it the Fletcher fake out.
It's the Fletcher fake out.
who are you and why are you following me? And he says, I'm Detective Lieutenant Avery Mendelsohn, and I'm following you to hopefully find out who killed Congressman Joyner.
Commercial break. Okay, well, maybe he wasn't murdered.
Meanwhile, has chronic back pain and also bad feet, and Jess eyes how many pills he's taking.
He starts rubbing his feet. Jessica Fletcher says, Lieutenant? We learn that he has an upset stomach as well.
And he exits with the best line.
Maybe I'm making something out of nothing. When my gut starts to growl, it's a sure sign there's a fox loose in the china shop.
So then we cut to an alleyway with a bum placing down their booze bottle next to Dan Kepner. Then he stands up and he's like, where am I?
He runs into the street and is almost struck by a police car. And then they say, wait a minute, and pull down a clipboard with his photo on it. So it's like
8x10.
Commercial. The police were obviously looking for him and almost hit him with a car.
Dan Kepner is taken to a police station and interviewed by Mendelsohn. Mendelsohn gives him back his jacket, and then they say, this key was found in your jacket, and it's to Marta Craig's apartment. She's dead.
She was beaten to death. Her jaw's broken, her face is all messed up, and oh, look at your hands. Bruises, bloodied. So Marta Craig is dead and he's the prime suspect.
So Jessica only meets new people in the Capitol hallways, apparently, because now she meets Thor Danziger with the Ecological Foundation. He begs to have a few moments of Jess's time.
He shows her the brief that he wants her to read, and in the shot, we also see a pin. This will be important later.
And Diana's like, you've had your chance, Thor, we have to go. So now we're on the Capitol House floor, and the speaker welcomes the distinguished congresswoman from the state of Maine.
Yeah, the unelected congresswoman. How distinguished. So then Mr. Dixon, who is the CEO of Pembroke Foods, pushing to get this cannery built, is giving some very stilted testimony that's like, hello and thank you. My name is Raymond Dixon of Pembroke Foods. This cannery would be extremely important to me and my company. Raymond Dixon is played by
Mitchell Ryan,
who was Greg's dad on Dharma and Greg.
Good for you, Kyle. Good eye.
Thanks.
Mitchell Ryan
Is one of my favorite actors.
Joe's trying to get Jess to meet up with a lady named Kay Shepard.
He's the person to know if you want to know anything, and he's gone through a lot to score her this big name for a lunch.
And she says, I don't need exposure, Joe, and I know I don't need a great lunch. Jess opens her office door. Mendelssohn's already in there waiting for her, and he asks Jess, why didn't you tell me that you and Dan were supposed to have breakfast this morning? And she's like,
You didn't ask.
they have evidence and should book him. He hesitates, and she says, let me guess, you're having trouble with your stomach. And he says, and also my feet. We're back at the police station. Dan's being interviewed still, and he said, it was dumb to move the body, but I couldn't think straight. Me neither.
Yes.
Couldn't think straight because he was obviously drunk on that night, but on the night when he was found having come from Marta Craig's apartment, he had just had a ginger ale. So he wasn't drunk then, so he must have been drugged. He doesn't know what happened, but he knows he didn't kill her.
And they say, well, what bar were you at? And he's like, I don't remember the name of it.
Detective Lieutenant Mendelsohn decides I should take this mystery writer to the morgue. They open the drawer and roll out Marta Craig's body, and Jessica Fletcher goes, oh. So then they say Kepner's hands, while they had blood on them, had no makeup. And if someone had beaten that woman that fiercely, there would be makeup on his hands. Don't take my word for it. Let's do a demonstration. Take off your jacket. If you had to drag an unconscious man, how would you do it? Why, you do it like this. And she grabs Detective Mendelsohn under the arms and says, see, if you were the killer and had stuff on your hands, it would get on the unconscious body's shirt. I think we can eliminate Congressman Kepner because he was obviously unconsciously dragged by the killer.
Meanwhile, back at the Capitol, they're in Jess's office. Diana is shocked it's being considered as Dan. Joe says,
Sure, he was an alcoholic, but he's been clean. But then he relapsed because his wife left him and took the kids. And I was like,
Jess says he's been framed. Joe, I need you to find out everything you can on Marta Craig. And he says, now wait a minute, Mrs. F.
You said that you can help me in any way I needed, and you're very well connected, and you seem to know everyone, and you're going on dates with different people every night. So I think you can take this time to find a little information about a woman who was murdered. I have to learn about cannery legislation, so you go find out about a sex worker who was beaten.
So then we're at another bar. Ray Dixon is sitting there drinking alone, and he's greeted by Harry Parmel.
If murder is a result of you and your fierce temper, which everybody knows you have, then I'm out. And if they come at me with murder charges, then I have no trouble giving you up.
So now we're in Diana Sims' house, and we see Diana enter her door. She puts her keys in a bowl. She looks in a mirror, and there's a man standing behind her, and she goes, and then she turns around and she goes, Thor. So he's the ecologist that Jess and Diana met in the hallway, but she swept him away from.
He's being blackmailed by someone who has a connection with Marta Craig, the deceased.
So now we sweep to Marta Craig's house, the crime scene, where Mendelsohn sits in the crime scene and takes off his shoe to rub his feet. As he's doing this, Jess picks up a picture she sees, no gloves on her hands, and finds a university photo of Marta, and then looks across, and who's in it?
Diana Sims, her administrative assistant.
Doesn't say anything to Mendelsohn. She just sets the picture down and says, could you drive me to the Library of Congress?
From sea to shining sea.
We're at a restaurant, and Jess has decided to meet up with Kay Shepard. Is it Mrs. or Miss Shepard?
Miss. Permanently, irrevocably, call me Kay.
Kay is wearing a beret. She has Bette Midler hair, and she's holding a cat named Peanut.
This is Peanuts. He was given to me by a former occupant of the White House. I defy you to guess which one.
Kate offers Jess a drink, and Jess is like, I'll have an iced tea. Kay was like, to her empty martini glass, one more time on this one.
He says, well, rumor has it that you're getting awfully close to cracking this case. So if you give me your information, I'll tell you what I know, what I saw.
She just happened to be sitting in a car.
Yeah, I was sitting in my car outside the Watergate Hotel at about 11:30 p.m.
And she saw Marta coming out of the Watergate, followed by Dixon 3 nights ago.
Yeah, Greg's dad from Darman Greg.
He grabbed her by the arm and they fought a little bit. And she said Dixon looked mad enough to kill. So we go back to the Capitol. Joe ends up spilling the information on Marta.
She had about 5 or 6 jobs and she did the party circuit. Had sex with people for money.
So Jess says, is Diana here by chance? And he says she went home after lunch. She felt sick.
Because now Jessica knows that Diana and Marta went to the same school from the picture earlier.
Jess says, Joe, I need more information on Marta by tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
So Dan visits Jess at her office. Thank you for everything you've done, but please, there's no need to go to any more trouble because I'm not going to seek re-election.
Jessica says, why? Because you're depressed? Because you're an alcoholic? Because your family left you? Don't let that get to you. You can still make a positive change.
You know what? You're right.
And then hugs her. And then on his way out says, yeah, and let's give that Dixon a good kick in the slats tomorrow.
We're back at Diana Sims' house. Jess drops by.
I know that you called out sick this afternoon, but let me just come in.
She immediately clocks some cigarettes on her coffee table. And then she says, well, maybe Thor Danziger from the environmental group could answer her questions. Will you ask him to step out of the bedroom?
What do you mean? I see these cigarettes, and I remember that your desk had a no smoking sign.
Which, if you watch, it is seen in one scene.
Jessica Fletcher will continue to be more observant than you. So Thor says, how did you know it was me? Jessica says, you see, I noted your tie pin on that day when I met you in the Capitol.
I thought that your interaction between you and Diana was really suspicious and it was too rude. So I could sense that you two were covering something up. I also saw that in the photo frame there was a picture of Diana with Marta, and I noticed that your tie pin decal was the same as on the cheerleading sweatshirt. So I went to the...
And he goes, let me guess, you went to the Library of Congress and you figured out that we had all gone to school together? And I was like, Jesus Christ!
Refill. Her and Thor kept their relationship a secret because of conflict of interest.
Because she's working for the Congress people voting on the bill, and he's on a crusade against the bill.
Diana, Thor, and Marta used to be college friends.
Then once we got to Washington, she got into sex work, so we don't talk as much. I've got to start using that. If not, do you do sex work? Are you in the party circuit?
Jess brings Thor and Diana to the police station, and the picture gets revealed of them laying in bed together.
Detective Mendelsohn is like, since you came forward with this information, I guess we won't consider you as a suspect anymore.
We're in the car with Joe again. Joe is reading Jess information that he's found. He's got a pad of paper in his right hand. His left hand's on the steering wheel, and he's just like swerving all over the road. Jess is like,
is the driving distracting from your reading?
oh no, I do this all all the time.
So he basically says, I did a lot more digging on Marta, and I basically came up empty-handed again. I know that she doesn't have any close friends, so that's it. Cool scene. We'll learn later why this scene was important.
We're back in a Capitol hallway, and guess what? Jess meets Ray Dixon, who is the CEO cannery guy.
Greg's dad from Dharma and Greg.
And he starts talking about the cannery bill, and she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you wanted to chat about the murder of Marta Craig.
Well, no, I don't know her. The people who have been here a while are the ones that get things done, and it's the amateurs who tend to get hurt. Here's the thing, Congressman Joyner died of natural causes, and if you didn't kill Marta Craig, why are you not saying I didn't kill her? Unless you're specifically a fabricated story point to make the audience think that you're the killer.
So Jess is back in her office. Diana asks Jess if she needs anything else before the vote on the cannery bill. Jess is going to her office door and she stops and has her aha moment. Then she quickly gets her coat and she says,
I actually have to go somewhere. And Diana says, well, but the vote is in less than 2 hours. And she says, don't let them start without me.
And then we go to the House floor where Dan Kepner starts talking about the ecological effects on the cannery.
He's taking up a lot of time. It's like, are you finished? No, I'm just getting started.
Jess comes back into her office and talks to Joe, who reminds her that you should be at the committee meeting. They're voting. And Jess says,
Joe, I just met with Kay Shepard. She told me that a jilted boyfriend of Marta Craig's was hanging out outside her apartment. And he saw Marta and Congressman Kleckner go in. And then he saw some other man go in. It must have been Ray Dixon. Oh, I have to go vote. After the vote, we're going to go to Ray Dixon's penthouse and we're going to find information about him. Obviously planting the idea that we need to go get Ray Dixon to confirm that he was the murderer.
Back at the Capitol House floor, Jess races in on Dan Kepner finishing his long-winded speech. She comes up and was like, I actually would like to say a few things. And the Speaker of the House is like, as long as it's shorter than what we just heard. She points out that she knows a new cannery would bring new jobs, which is a positive for Maine. However, do you know that there are 7 abandoned canneries and 2 were Mr. Dixon's company? So it's disgraceful that buildings and people have been abandoned for profitable tax gain. So repair the previous canneries.
You don't get a new cannery until you use the old canneries that we already got you.
What a wonder. Can you believe that she wasn't elected to this office democratically?
We then cut back to the Watergate penthouse and we see Joe breaking in.
To plant the blackmail photos in Ray Dixon's desk.
So Mendelsohn steps around the corner, who's been waiting for him. And then just shortly after, Jess and a policeman come in.
And then classic Murder, She Wrote. Jessica is now going to tell the murderer exactly how he is the murderer.
So Jess noticed you were wearing really nice suede driving gloves when you picked me up from the airport. You do know that blood and makeup is really difficult to remove from suede, and you weren't wearing them the other day when you were recklessly driving with your notepad.
You thought I didn't notice that you didn't have your fancy driving gloves on? Well, think again, mister.
So Jess says, I also noticed that you slipped, revealing that the police report said that Marta picked up Dan at Stockman's bar. He couldn't remember where he was.
So he must have gotten the information directly from Marta. And how are you going to get that information unless you are the one controlling this woman's actions?
And I would have gotten away with it too, until Marta got a little too big for her pantyhose. He gets arrested. Moments after all this drama has happened, Mendelsohn's like, hey Jess, how'd your vote go? And she was like, they won unanimously. As they're leaving, Mendelsohn's like,
what do you say, Mrs. Fletcher? I have an appointment with the podiatrist at 2 o'clock, but I still have time for a bite to eat. This man has been established as a fairly successful Jewish man. They go get a lox platter from a deli, and then the music that sweeps in is like a klezmer fantasy. Murder, She Wrote.
so sum up this episode, Kyle.
If you're gonna blackmail and kill and lie, at least have a point.
If you think you might be murdered, make sure you powder your face so that your max factor doesn't come off on the killer's hands.
If you like parties, make sure you know what party circuit means. the Cabot Cove ladies. We deal in theatrical concessions. Concessions.